Hi everyone, it's Miss Brenner. I'm here to go over our online 2020 science fiction short story project, Rubric. So if you chose to create your own short story within the genre of fantasy or horror, this is that rubric. It is a 60-point project that is divided into several different categories. Let's start off with the top two categories. These are each worth 14 points. First off, starting off with project directions. That it goes over and above all the required elements stated in the directions and instructions, which would be this video and the prior video that goes over the basic directions. So in order to get the whole 14 points, you need to show that you went above and beyond the basic structure laid out on those directions. 8 points, it includes all the required elements as stated in the directions/instructions, but just barely. So it meets everything, but maybe it doesn't do it all that well, or it kind of only hints at certain elements that were discussed on the directions. Like it just barely has 3 characters. Alrighty. Next is 5 points. It attempts to include all of the required elements as stated in the directions, but falls short due to misuse of literary elements. 3, it misses one or more of the required elements as stated in the directions. And 0 points, several required elements are missing from the project. The next category is organization and style. So, in order to get the full 14 points, the story has a clear exposition, body, and resolution with purpose and character growth. Story uses appropriate transitions between and within paragraphs for consistently clear and smooth logical relations among ideas. And then that second step of style is a pleasure to read. It's graceful, uncluttered, rich, vivid, and uses rhetorical and stylistic devices to the writer's advantage. To get the 8 points, the story's organization is logical and appropriate for content, but just not as smooth as the first category of 14 points. It is clear and shows sentence variety and uses interesting, precise vocabulary, but it just isn't quite as elaborate as the 14-point category. 5 points. Story's organization maintains one idea per paragraph, but it is simplistic, or ideas' relationships are sometimes unclear. And then for style, it's functional, but the sentence variety and vocabulary are limited, or style is lively but wordy. 3 points. The story shows some minor skills, but has a major flaw. It's not controlled, or has poor paragraphing, or is redundant in sections. And then for style, has major flaws, like it's simplistic, wordy, repetitious, and often unclear. 0 points. The story lacks paragraphing and is illogical and confusing, or the story is too short to have any kind of organization. And as far as style goes, it has such severe flaws that sentences are hard to understand, or the essay is too short to really judge. Alrighty, so those are our 2 big categories of 14 points, and then we have our 9-point categories. So to get the full 9 points, you need to have that errors are rare or absent as far as grammar, mechanics, and MLA formatting. To get the 7 points, errors occur, but they are few. 5 points, errors are frequent. 3 points, errors exist in almost every sentence and may interfere with the meaning. 0 points, errors are so obstructive to the meaning of the essay that it just becomes too short to really judge, and the MLA formatting and grammar are just really atrocious. Alright, next 9-point category is understanding of content as far as literary lenses. The story has centered its character growth around a central literary lens to enhance the development of the story's plot. This is not thrown in the reader's face, but clearly incorporated into the text in a way that creates deeper meaning to the character's purpose and development. So that would get you the full 9 points. The 7 points, the story has attempted to center its character's growth around a central literary lens, but has made it feel a little bit forced. For example, gender lens reminds the reader that the protagonist is a strong, independent woman and doesn't need a man. If you force that in there, it's going to be blaringly obvious. So don't do that. Don't feel like you have to force the literary lens. A lot of times it'll naturally start to appear as you give your character personality. 5 points. the story has elements that appear to be inspired by literary lenses, but are clearly interjected because the writer forced these points in after writing the story. 3 points, the story claims to be using literary lens, but it's working against the growth of the story. For example, as far as new critical goes, creating a symbol out of darkness, but this symbol does not correlate with the plot of the story or the central theme/motifs. So you can't just throw a symbol into your story and say that it's new critical lens, especially if it doesn't work with your story. 0 points, the story does not use any methods of any deeper analysis. So the story is just so basic that it doesn't have any kind of deeper meaning or elaborate and add detail. Alrighty, the next and last 9-point category is understanding of content for foreshadowing. So, I do just want to give this forewarning. In this category, if you choose to do fantasy, I am really looking for these elements. If you are choosing to do horror, I'm looking for these elements along with the fact that you have a monster of some form that either fits one of the 3 categories or a combination of the 3. So, understanding of content for foreshadowing. To get the full 9 points, the story is able to engage the reader by using elements of foreshadowing with skill and purpose. Foreshadowing elements are not thrown in the reader's face, but cleverly incorporated into the text. Once again, don't make it blatantly obvious that you thought out how to lead your reader to the answer you wanted. If your story has enough plot elements to it, your reader will naturally be able to identify where the story is probably going, and if they miscalculate, they'll be surprised at the end as long as it all logically makes sense, and that's good. Just like in the jaunt, maybe you weren't expecting that ending, but when you go back and think about it, it kind of starts to piece together, which is fine. You don't have to force foreshadowing. 7 points, the story attempts to engage the reader by using elements of foreshadowing, but seems to stick to leading the reader directly to the answer, rather than allowing the reader to find the answer. 5 points, the story has moments that appear to be inspired by foreshadowing, but are clearly interjected because the reader forced these points in after writing the story. 3 points, the story lacks detail or clues for the reader to make predictions, and in return causes confusion. 0 points, the story does not use any methods to provide clues to the reader, and therefore it leaves the reader lost for most of the story. Alrighty, so that is our rubric for the creating your own short story option for the project. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, and make sure that you watch this video along with the directions. I hope you guys all stay happy and healthy, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!